my father was a baker, and the gentleman who was president of the Orbost Football Club was his boss, Bill Weston. In 1951, Orbost joined the Gippsland Football League and played against some very large towns, Sale, Maffra, Bairnsdale, and they recruited Ron Edwards in 1951 because Lake Tyers, I believe, had finished the year before. And my dad's boss asked my mum if Ron could stay at our house on Friday nights before he played footy for Orbost. And being my dad's boss, Mum could hardly anyway. And Ron was very Ron was very comfortable coming to our place because he knew my dad, and his father Con knew my dad as well, and they had a great relationship. So I mean, obviously I was only 3 or 4 then, but it's legend that Ronnie stayed at the Switzer house. And so that's where the connection came from our family's point of view. And of course, as time went on, we came to realise that Ron was a superstar, an absolute superstar, who kicked 43 goals from 47 shots for Lake Tyers in one game, which, you know, a lot of us would be really happy to kick 43 goals in a season, let alone 43 goals in a match. So he was obviously just an awesome talent. And for what it's worth, the coach of Orbost is a legend as well, Brian Turner. He played football for Richmond in the Jack Dyer days, and football lovers would be aware of those days. They were really, really tough days. But our coach, Brizzer Turner, was just an absolute legend. He was a wonderful player and a coach well ahead of his time. He visited me recently, and we talked about all of the great times we'd had winning premierships and all the fun times we had. And we talked about Ronnie Edwards. And Coach, I call him Coach said, Swibber, there is no doubt that Ron Edwards would have played at the highest level. It's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. And coming from Brian Turner, that's a real testament. You know, he just didn't, you know, throw those compliments out. So he told me a couple of stories about Ron. On one particular day, Ron broke his collarbone, and he was in the forward pocket. He broke his collarbone, and Brizzer was coaching, and he went to Ron and said, "Well, Ron, no, come on, mate, give us, you don't worry about this, Brizzer, I'll kick this one." He was on a tight angle. He's about 30 metres out. He got up and he put it straight through the middle. That's a legendary story, but it's true. And but yeah, he only played for Orbost for 3 years. This is according to our history book, the centenary book of the Orbost Football Club. I don't see his name mentioned in 1954. So we only had the great honour of his presence for 3 years. And he played in a premiership team in 1951. And, you know, for all of us, he was just a legend. And the tales went on. And I was too young, really, too young. But I do remember feeling very important that Ronnie Edwards was actually staying at our house. You know, that was a really important. I was devastated when I heard that. Absolutely devastated. As a football administrator and a player and a lover of the community, I was bloody angry, to be honest. Because I reflect on when I was, as a very young man, I played cricket at Lake Tyers, and the welcome that we received was extraordinary. And the connections and the friendships. Actually played against Ronnie Edwards. Ronnie actually played cricket. I was probably 14 or 15, and a little guy called Noel Hood, legendary. Yeah, so there were some great memories there. Yeah, and Ron's dad, of course, Con, who I mentioned is there. Well, I remember us going in for afternoon tea, and we had a feast. You know, it was terrific. And and we had a lot of fun. You know, a lot of the players knew my dad, and so they sort of knew that I was just a cricket lover. And when I batted, I think they went a bit easy on me because I was pretty young, and they were having a joke, and it was just really good fun. Yeah, great memory. And I know my brother, who has great connection with the community as well, wasn't very pleased either. So, but I don't, and I think he tried. I'm not certain about this. I can't remember, but I think my brother tried to get Lake Tyers into the East Gippsland League. But for those who were around at the time, may have a different story to that. But that's just my recollection. But I know that my brother Neil, who's passed away, was particularly unhappy. And my brother had a way of showing his unhappiness, I might say. I can't remember the rationale for their dismissal, but I know that I was really pleased that Lake Tyers were fielding a side. I thought it was really good because I reflected on my cricket experience at Lake Tyers and just what a wonderful experience that was and how good that was for the community. It's about I mean, footy to me is certainly it's about respect. It's respect for your opponents, respect for your teammates, respect for the people who enable you to get out onto the field, who do all the hard work, and it's about self-esteem. It's about feeling good about yourself, being part of a team, making a contribution, and as I say, if you're in an Aboriginal team, you know, your pride would be just bursting because you'd be saying, hey, how good is this? I'm making a contribution to my community and I'm making them happy, and that's good. So I reckon that's about it for me.